Hey guys, it's Drew again. I have got two of the most incredible pieces of vintage memorabilia that I have ever come across, let alone had in my possession. And the story that accompanies it is absolutely unbelievable. So stick around and let's check it out. So like I mentioned, I was able to come across a couple of items that I will show and I'll talk about in great detail. But the story that comes along with these items, it just has to be told. So just bear with me and I will share this towards the end of the video of what you actually see. But anyway, this story starts back over 100 years ago, 1921, in a small town in Georgia. And at the time, it was a very poor area, and there was a family, and they had a baby. And November 17th, 1920, a baby was born named Joseph Henry Winters. And like a lot of people in the South, as he grew up, while he had his birth name, he got a nickname. And for whatever reason, it's kind of been lost to time. Everyone just kind of called him Gus. So this story is about Gus, and as Gus grew up, he was from a poor family. His parents were farmers, but he saw work ethic. He saw working hard, and he saw what it took to try to get ahead. And it was something that was instilled to him, even though they didn't have much money as a family. But what he was he was a normal, typical kid, and what he really loved to do was go outside and play, especially baseball. And he would go out, and out in the fields with his buddies, and they'd play sometimes with a rock or a stick, just anything that simulated baseball. Well, remember, this is 1920s, and Major League Baseball was nowhere near Georgia. I mean, the closest geographical team was the Washington Senators at the time. There's no way that they could ever go. Now, yes, there was a Southern League, there was other smaller leagues, independent leagues, and things like that. So he did get to see organized baseball being played, but his dream, what he read about in the paper, what he would hear about from his dad, because his dad got to see Ty Cobb play, who was also from Georgia, and his dad was able to see him when he was a younger man too. But Gus just so bad wanted to see a major league team. Well, in 1930. Kind of part of his dream and what shaped the rest of his life as far as his thought on baseball happened. So word got out that in the spring of 1930, the great New York Yankees were on their way back from spring training up to New York to start the season, and they did this small barnstorming tour, just sort of, fine-tuning the rest of their team and stuff to get a little playing time to play in these little towns along the way. And the train went pretty close. In fact, it was the next town over from where Gus and his family lived, and the New York Yankees were going to play an exhibition game against a local team. He was 8 years old. He was so excited. He wanted to go so bad, but he didn't have any money. His family didn't have money for tickets. But Gus was a smart kid, and he and a couple of buddies walked over to the next town, and they got to where it wasn't a stadium, but where the field was, and the crowd, and everybody's wanting to go in, and of course there's plenty of people there. Well, Gus, he was able to get in there, and he snuck in. He actually snuck into the outfield, and where the field was, it wasn't, like I said, stands, but where the outfield fence was, there was sort of an elevation up, and there was tons of people, and he got up in there, and he got it, and he could see the field, the green grass, and it wasn't the grass or the sky, it was the atmosphere. It was just electric to see. And he could see from a distance, he could see the New York Yankees, and they stood out because their uniforms were bright white compared to the dingy gray of all the uniforms he had ever seen. And they are bigger than life himself. He could see it from the distance of where he sat in the outfield, number 3. The great Babe Ruth. He couldn't believe it. Babe Ruth just, how do you just imagine this, okay? So Babe Ruth is out there and he's playing and they do the game and he has the time of his life and he finally gets to see a major league team even though it wasn't a major league game. And then his dream comes true. At some point during the game, Babe Ruth just lost a massive mammoth home run deep over the stands. The crowd goes berserk. Ruth tips his cap as he goes around, and it's just a great day. And it's something that's stuck in his memory forever. He got to see Babe Ruth hit a home run. And so as time moves on, he grows up. And again, this is a humble town. It's a small town. And the Depression, is hard. And as he grows up, he does get married. He marries his high school sweetheart. Her name was Loretta. And he becomes a mill worker just at a textile mill, which is very common in the South. And he works hard. He works hard to provide for his family. Gus and Loretta end up having 2 children. Their oldest, Susan, and then their younger, the son, his name was William. So So believe it or not, Susie and Bill, and as time goes on, he always talked about that day. That day he remembered as a little kid to be able to go to see a major league team, even though it wasn't a major league game, and to see the great Babe Ruth hit a home run, even though it didn't count in the 714 that he hit in his career. So Gus was so excited to be able to share this story, and he shared this passion, especially for Susie. Susie was so much just adored and respected her father. She saw how he worked so hard, how he provided for his family. They had a very small house and humble means, but they didn't lack for anything. They always had food on the table, and Gus made sure his family was always taken care of. And Susie saw that, and she respected that. And as they got older, she always wanted to be able to do something. Well, he would often talk about this game. He would often talk about his witness. He would often talk about this thing. And what he wanted to do more than anything in the world was just go see a Major League Baseball game. Well, as you guys probably know, if you're anything with history, in 1966, the Milwaukee Braves moved to Atlanta. Now, Atlanta was still a good ride away. It wasn't around the corner, and they still didn't have much money, but now he had a home team to cheer for. Now he had someone, and he started listening to all these games on the radio, and he would read over and over the accounts, the scorecard every day, and he fell in love with a player. Probably guessed it, and it was none other than Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron was in the midst of his amazing and incredible career, and Gus just wanted so bad to talk about baseball. He would talk with his buddies, and he would talk about it with his family, and he would listen to the radio, and it was just a buzz that the South finally got a team, the Atlanta Braves and the great Hank Aaron. But again, it wasn't in their means. It wasn't able for them to be able to go to a baseball game. It was just too far of a ride. It was too many obstacles to overcome. So he was okay with that he never was able to fulfill his dream, but it was still there. Well, Susie grows up and she gets married, and she marries a man, a businessman, and actually moves up towards Virginia, or in Virginia, in the Roanoke area actually. And his birthday, like I mentioned, is in November. And because of whatever, the family, Susie and her husband, they come down and they have Thanksgiving with her parents, so Gus and Loretta, and they're all together. And this is a week after his birthday, but they decide to give him a special birthday. Now remember, this is 1971, so this is his 50th birthday. And they give him a box, and it's all wrapped up for his birthday and whatever. And he opens it up, and it's baseball cards. Well, he never collected baseball cards. He didn't know anything about it. I mean, he knew what they were, but they were kind of a kid's thing. But to see his eyes light up, to see that he was able to kind of recapture that childish passion that he had opening these packs and sharing the gum with his family. In fact, his grandson was there, Susie's little boy, Billy. And so, they're just enjoying this thing. And what he was hoping for was to see his Atlanta Braves. He was looking for Davey Johnson. He was looking for Rico Carty. He was looking for just anybody. And of course, he so bad wanted a Hank Aaron card. And finally, as he opens the last pack of cards, there it was, a Hank Aaron card. In fact, this Hank Aaron card, 1971 Hank Aaron. And you can see from this picture, it was loved. It was beat up, and this is a very typical condition 1971 card. But it was the great Hank Aaron. And at first he was a little confused. He couldn't figure out that with all the cards made, why the players would sign every single card until they realized that the signature was just a facsimile on the front. But for a little bit, that childish moment, he thought, oh my gosh, I have a Hank Aaron autograph on my baseball card. And of course it wasn't, but we'll come back to this card. So after opening the box, they decide to tell him his other surprise. And what his big surprise is, Susie's husband had business attachments to a couple of companies down in Atlanta, and they had made an arrangement to be able to take Gus to a game and actually go to be able to see the Atlanta Braves, the great Hank Aaron, his team, all the people he really wanted to see, and to see him play in 1972, and he was thrilled. And not only that, there was another surprise coming. So winter comes and goes, spring comes, and he gets there, and he gets to go to the game, and he's just amazed. I mean, the stadium, the feel, the whole thing, and here was the great thing was he brought all of his cards with him, including this card. This card was there, and they brought it with him to be able to show off, or just to have it. Now, not all the cards, just the Braves cards, of course. So it was April 22nd, 1972, when they were playing the Cincinnati Reds, and a game that actually the Braves ended up winning 11-7. And not only that, he got to witness Hank Aaron hit a home run. Oh, What a thrill. I mean, could you imagine this? As a youngster, he got to see Babe Ruth hit a home run. And then as an adult, when he finally gets to his very first major league game, he gets to see Hank Aaron hit a home run. Golly, what a story! I'm telling you. So anyway, so here's the kicker. Not just the cards back on his birthday, not the arrangement to be able to go to a game, not to be able to be around his family because his family was there as well. But his son-in-law was also able to arrange through his partnership or through his business dealings for Gus to go down and actually got to meet Hank Aaron, and he shook his hand and he was just all smiles. Unfortunately, I don't have the photo this day, but there is a couple of those photos. But like I said, I do have this card, and Hank Aaron's talking to him. He's more than cordial. He was happy to meet this fan. He loved hearing the story about the Babe Ruth thing. Of course, this was still a few years before Hank Aaron even, had beaten Babe Ruth's home run record. But still, just that connection, that history, and to see the love of a grown man, but through a child's imagination coming through and talking to him. And he asked him, he said, well, can I, you want an autograph or something? I mean, something to give him. And he said, well, I don't have anything. I've got these baseball cards or whatever. And Hank Aaron jokingly said, well, I've already signed the front. He said, but I'll tell you what, let me go ahead and sign the back. And if you turn it around and look, you can see where Hank Aaron actually autographed the back of this picture for Gus all the way back in 1972. And this became the most cherished item. And he was so excited. He got to share this game, not only for himself, but he got to share it with his daughter. And more than that, he got to share it with his grandson. And this is where the story starts taking a turn. So this whole next summer, the whole 1972, Gus is super excited. And he's more of a baseball fan than ever. And he so bad wants to pass this love, this enjoyment, the exuberance that he has for baseball to his grandson, and the fact that it's Hank Aaron. But how does he do this? His grandson lives up in Virginia, but as word comes out, as they're coming towards the end of this year, towards the end of the baseball season, probably fall, plans are made for that following Christmas, and they're made that his daughter and family are going to be coming down and spending Christmas with them down in Georgia. So he wants to get something for his grandson, but he's not a shopper. I mean, he's a mill worker. He doesn't know. But his wife, she liked to shop, and this is kind of a throwback if you don't know the story or how this worked. But what he did was he got the old Sears and Roebuck catalog that was his wife's. It was laying around. And he starts flipping through, and he goes to the baseball section, and he finds an item. Okay, and what he finds is a pitchback. Now this pitchback is like a net on a thing, and a kid could throw and it would bounce off and they would catch it. And we're just practicing grounders or line drives or whatever. But this was endorsed by Hank Aaron, and he's like, "This is what I want to get. This is what I want to get Billy." And so through his wife's catalog, he actually orders this to get shipped and hopes it comes in time. As time gets there, though, something happens with a delay. Christmas comes, Christmas goes, but this gift doesn't show up. Not in time for Christmas. So Billy and Susie and their family, they go back up to Virginia, and sure enough, 2 weeks after Christmas, this pitchback shows up in the mail. 2 weeks too late. Well, Gus is not deterred by this. He's still going to do this. So as the story goes, Gus puts up this item, and he's going to save it for the next year, and he's going to make a point to give it to his grandson the next year. Well, unfortunately, in August of 1972, there was a fire at the mill, and poor Gus lost his life, and he was never able to do that. And this was a sad time for the family. And his grandson grew up loving and hearing the stories about his grandfather. He always remembered going to that game to see Hank Aaron and all that. And as time goes on, this pitchback thing was kind of lost. It was sort of put up somewhere only Gus knew or whatever. Fast forward to, I don't know, probably about 8 years ago. It's uncovered. The family has moved on. There's a house, there's an outbuilding, and in the outbuilding, out where he kept his lawnmower and his tools and stuff like that, underneath a blanket, up in the top of the rafters, uncovered is this pitchback. And it's too late. The family has all moved on, but there's the story. So I'm going to show you this item, because here's the thing is the connection with the story is so incredible. But this thing is big, so give me a second as I do this. But this is an actual pitchback endorsed by Hank Aaron, and as you can see from the box, It's got Hank Aaron's picture. It's endorsed by him for little leaguers. You can see how it works with a little net. A lot of you guys probably remember these things, okay? But here's the crazy thing about this, is it's still sealed. It's still in its original box. It's never been opened. It's never been opened. In fact, you can see on the back the original shipping label to Mrs. J. Harry Winters in Georgia. And really close, in fact, I'll do a close-up because it's too hard to see, that the postmark on it is January 6th, 1973. Too late for Christmas, and unfortunately, it was lost to time. This is one of the most incredible pieces I've ever had the privilege or the honor of knowing. It's loud, it's heavy, and it's awesome. And I just wanted to share that. And as unbelievable as this item really is, as unbelievable as this card with an autograph really is, I've got to be honest, the story's not true. Gus isn't real. Loretta's not real. Billy never existed. I made the story up. All of it. But I want to share that, not because I'm trying to trick you. This is not April Fool's. The reason I did this is because when I see something vintage, when I see a card that's beat up like this, there's a story behind it. Why is it not packed fresh? Because there is a Gus out there who loved it. Why is there a pitchback machine or a pitchback that's still brand new in the box? Well, it's because Billy never got to play with it or whatever. My connection with baseball, I didn't see Hank Aaron play. I didn't see Mickey Mantle. I didn't see Babe Ruth. I didn't see any of those guys. But the connection to those players is the items that we hold in our collections. It's the baseball cards. It's the pictures, the photographs, the autographs, or whatever it is that we collect. All of those things, all put together, create a legacy. And that's what I love about this hobby. It's creating that legacy together that we can all share. It's being able to hold something like a beat up 1971 Hank Aaron baseball card and say, some kid loved this card literally almost to death. When I see a card that's creased, wrinkled, off-centered, spat on, chewed on, bicycle spokes or whatever, to me, that's not well loved, that's adored. And I love that. So yeah, I made up a story. This pitchback is one of the coolest things I've ever come across. The fact that I actually own something that's still unopened, that it has a postmark that was actually, there had to be a story. Why in the world did someone get this in January of 1973 and it was still brand new and unopened? It's still in its original box. The fact that it has remained uncovered or unopened and the picture is not all worn. It was in a closet somewhere or an attic or a basement or whatever. And I don't know the story. So in my mind, I go back, just like Gus went back, and he could imagine what it would be like to see a Major League Baseball game, except Gus didn't exist. That's what I do. I go back, and when I look at my collection, I think, what's the story behind this item? So I hope you guys aren't upset. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Maybe you were entertained. Maybe you're upset. Whatever. But I really hope that you guys take a moment, go find something in your collection, come up with something, some kind of a story, a fantasy, just some sort of a tale to be able to connect yourself to the person who originally had that in 1973 or 1933 or 1903 or whatever it is that you collect, and make that connection, draw them together to become that legacy. Until next time, you guys be good.